What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. Steven or Will here to go over the start sit questions for week 6. Will, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Is it Stephen or Will or Stephen and Will, Steve?
I think it's both of us. I think that's what it sounds like.
I would hope. I mean, maybe we're the same person and we're just really good at changing our voice.
Maybe I'll edit you out.
Oh,
It'll
that
just be me.
Would be dangerous.
That would be weird to listen to, but
Oh, yeah, just like a silent 3 minutes and then
Yeah.
back to you and then another set.
yeah, I'm not sure it's good podcasting, but
No, probably not. But
power is there.
the power is there. Well, what did you think about Tuesday Night Football, Steve?
I thought that I didn't watch it.
Oh no.
No, yeah, I haven't watched a great deal. It's just been busy, but yeah, as far as from what I've seen, as far as like stat wise and plays and stuff, I think it was pretty impressive for Tennessee to not play 2 weeks. You got to figure they'd be rusty.
Yeah. Good practice.
Yeah, AJ Brown coming in with a big game and
Huge game. Yeah.
against a good team too. It's not like they are against the Jets or something. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess they were missing the top corner, I believe, right?
yeah, but still they slowed down a good offense. They put up points against a good defense. One player doesn't make the defense, and found that pretty impressive on the Tennessee side. How about you? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun game to watch. It was pretty close early on, and then kind of Tennessee ran away with it a bit. But, even into the fourth quarter, you thought, Buffalo kind of has this aura to them now where it's like, oh, man, maybe they can come back. Kind of like anytime, right this year, Baltimore or Kansas City are down, you kind of have that feeling that they're going to make it a game and come back, especially with the NFL. So it was an exciting game overall. It's good to see that, even playing on a Tuesday, it works out. I know Buffalo now plays on Monday, I think, so they get like almost a full week, while Tennessee's got to play on Tuesday or on Sunday.
Yeah, it looks like everything's going to work out in that regard. There's some weird waivers for fantasy not running until tonight. So that was interesting and kind of cool. I guess I
think some sites didn't do that. I believe Sleeper on the one that I'm in
Sleeper ran,
but the other ones didn't.
And I could have sworn I saw a message on Yahoo saying they were going to run like normal, and I set all my waivers, and then today I came in and I was like, no,
I didn't get any of them. What?
Yeah, I didn't know what had happened there. I don't know if I misread it or something changed, but I was looking at the dates next to the names of the player and their message. I don't know how I would have messed that up, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're Steve, so you mess a lot of things up.
Yeah, things happen.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Ready to jump into some start set questions?
Yeah. I got a little bonus one here for you. It's not one that you see too often, but two of the top quarterbacks of the week in my Dynasty League. I've got Pat Mahomes against the Bills or Josh Allen against the Chiefs. So it's watching the game, whichever one you start, you're going to be kicking yourself if the other one does better while watching the game.
Yeah, that is difficult.
I think Allen's performance last night made it a little bit easier, but I feel like Buffalo's defense is good and Kansas City's isn't. But I feel like the numbers say they're both a little more to the mean than I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Like, my initial response was Mahomes. Like, I'm just not benching him. But I also think, like, if somebody's going to have their game vultured away from him, I'd imagine CEH would vulture a game away sooner than Singletary would.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the field toward the end of the game, which was strange.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a tiebreaker worth really looking at.
Yeah.
I'd end up going Mahomes. I don't think I could bench Mahomes for anyone. Really.
That's where I'm leaning. But I just thought it was an interesting one. We see some crazy questions where it's like, man, you have to pick between these two, or pretty nice that you get to pick between these two. I don't think I've ever had, two top quarterbacks available there.
Yeah, it's nice being in that situation, but also sucks at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
You'll be wrong.
Curse.
Yeah.
Good problem to have, but still a problem.
Yeah, problem nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
all right, well,
jump into another quarterback question.
Ones.
Huh?
Yeah.
So we got Stafford at Jacksonville or Fitzpatrick versus the Jets.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I'm going to go Stafford, but it's closer than you'd think because, I mean, Fitzpatrick's going to have his good games, going to have his bad games, but against the Jets, a revenge game for Fitzpatrick, if you will. I think that
all games are revenge games for Fitzpatrick.
About a third of the league. But yeah, no, I think he is going to be able to, move the ball well against this team. The Miami looked pretty good last week, but I do worry that maybe they go up big early. Now they don't have a Lev Bell to rely on late in the game. So, I wouldn't mind playing Fitz. I lost Dak in a league, and I'm hoping to pick him up and play him. But if I have the luxury of playing Stafford in a game that I imagine is going to be, a nice offensive output for both sides, fantasy wise, with Stafford in Jacksonville playing up against the mustache himself, I want to play, probably multiple assets in that game. Whereas it's going to be pretty limited what you want to play with the Fitzpatrick game. So I'll take Stafford.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'll take Stafford. Additionally, it weighs on my mind that Stafford just had a bye week as well. Extra week of prep, a little bit of rest, and I think that's a good thing. Plus, Fitzpatrick's prone to those kind of 4 interception kind of games. It feels like it's been a while since he's had. I know he didn't have a good game the other week, but those really big disaster games, I don't think he's really had for a while. So, maybe not, but still, he seems like the lower floor. But I can see them both having similar upside. Fitzpatrick probably has higher upside, but it's not like Stafford's upside's low by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to go with Stafford.
Next up, we've got a PPR, full PPR wide receivers here. We got Jameson Crowder in Miami or Devontae Parker at home for the Jets.
I don't think I could sit Crowder at this point. He's the only weapon on this team. There's no one else, especially with Bell there now. I mean, you can establish this kind of running through the air thing that's been thrown around occasionally in certain situations because, Gore's not getting it done. So I don't think I could bench Crowder. I think he has another good game. If you want to go with Parker, I don't really mind that. That's fine. He's probably got the higher upside. But I like Crowder this week. I'm not going to shy away. You do need to look out because I've heard some rumblings of Mims. But that's not going to really weigh on my mind too much as of yet. So I'll go with Crowder. How about you?
Yeah, I think the scoring format probably kind of breaks the tie because they're pretty close overall for me this week. But Crowder is just a PPR monster. And he's had a couple of big plays as well this year, which is different for him. But I'll go Crowder in a nutshell, although both of these guys seem flex worthy. So, hopefully you've got some other players that are better, and that's the reason these are popped out. But maybe double check and see if there's a way you can get them both in the lineup because I think they both should have pretty solid games and really be a focal point of each of their offenses against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, half point PPR, 2 wide receivers here. We got Justin Jefferson versus the Falcons or Will Fuller at Tennessee.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson loved the talent, didn't love the situation, but this is another one of those examples where talent sometimes can overcome maybe not the best situation to be in. So he is on fire. I think he had a down week either this week or last week, but overall, I'm firing him up in, almost any situation. I think he's, borderline wide receiver 2, maybe a flex, but, he has one bad week here. It looks like this week with 4, but the last 2 prior to that, he goes over 100. But I'm just not thrilled about that offense overall. He's not a bad kind of play for a boom bust option, but if I've got the option of Jefferson, I'm locking Jefferson in.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not going to pass up Jefferson. I think at worst, they're the similar kind of player. But at best, Jefferson's going to be far more consistent. And, I'm not going to pass up the matchup against the Falcons. Tennessee's a tough matchup for Fuller, and Falcons should be an easy one for Jefferson. So, matchups alone lean on the Jefferson side. So I will take Jefferson as well.
So we've got 2 guys going heads up against each other here. We have Jerick McKinnon against the Rams, Darrell Henderson against the Niners. Both have been up and down this year for a myriad of reasons, but interesting to see this matchup, Steve. PPR, Henderson, McKinnon.
Yeah, it's a similar situation where, sometimes it's Henderson's week, sometimes it's Malcolm Brown's week. I'd imagine sometimes it's going to be Akers' week, and we could be seeing the same thing with McKinnon. I don't really know. But I am very hesitant to start McKinnon after he disappeared last week and the whole 49ers team just kind of disappeared. I'd rather take a week and just kind of chill on that one. So I will roll the dice with Henderson this week. What about you?
Yeah, both tough matchups. I think Akers is healthy too, so that kind of shakes it up a bit as well. But obviously, Mostert healthy is, taking some carries away from McKinnon. It's tough because I feel like he kind of got that game out, that San Francisco game last week, because they were just getting crushed, and it seemed like they kind of, not any team ever mails it in, but they're just like, oh, let's kind of pull the brakes back here. It's a non-conference team. They came out with a better team in the first half. Maybe they didn't want to risk an injury to McKinnon with his injury health. But that being said, I kind of like your idea of, if you have the ability to, if you can afford to, sitting him this week and playing a guy like Henderson and, kind of hoping you get the touchdown pretty much, because the touchdown upside isn't really there for McKinnon with most being back. So yeah, I'm on board with you there. I'll take Henderson in this one.
Okay, and we're coming back to the world of quarterbacks here. Big Ben versus Cleveland or Kirk Cousins versus Atlanta?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the upside's there with Cousins, right? And we imagine this game's going to be a shootout. We like Jefferson. We like both sides' weapons. But I just am always worried about Kirk Cousins, man. And if I can get a guy that I like, has a safer floor, still has the upside, like a Ben Roethlisberger with the amount of weapons he has, I'm taking Ben all day. So Ben Roethlisberger against Cleveland for me.
Yeah, it's the same for me too. I think, and you can't even really tell at this point because they're Thursday game, but if you're looking at your projections, you need really high upside, I'd roll out Cousins. Other than that, I'll stick with Big Ben. I mean, Cousins has a great matchup. He had a great matchup last week too, and he didn't do a lot with it. So,
yeah,
that would be my worry. If Cousins went out and put out last week against the Seahawks, then I would probably be more interested in him this week. But he has the upside. If you need that, that's fine. But I would much rather start Big Ben here.
So a little bit of not really breaking news, but breaking report by ESPN. Chiefs are the favorite to land Le'Veon Bell. How does that affect Clyde and that whole team?
Yeah, I saw a little while ago that Bell and Mahomes just started following each other on Twitter. And
how crazy is it that social media now can kind of dictate things like that? Like, oh, maybe that means they're going to be teammates.
Yeah, right? So I had that in mind. I think it makes sense. I don't know. It sucks for Clyde, but I mean, he hasn't been lighting the world on fire either. And I feel like they need a depth play. Darrell Williams isn't bad. He's come in and been serviceable in the past, but having another guy, I think, solidifies that team to make another run and gives you a backdrop in case there's an injury. And at best, then Le'Veon Bell's going to one of the best offenses in the league, and we'll see definitely what he still has. I know there's some truthers out there that think he's still Le'Veon Bell, and it was just a Jets/Adam Gase issue.
Yeah,
we're about to find that out. This is what's going to happen. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it makes Mahomes better. I think it makes the receiving and the passing game better overall. It obviously, I think, hurts Clyde, makes the rest of the backfield irrelevant. And, I think it gives Bell a boost in a way, but also a hindrance, right? Because he has more quality competition for carries, but he's on a much better team. So probably for Bell, it's kind of a neutral move. Obviously, better overall, but maybe a little bit more competition. But I think it definitely hurts Edwards-Helaire. Definitely, can't get around that it would be a damper on his upside.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move away from that little bit of breaking news to our next question. PPR tight ends here. Tonyan at Tampa Bay or Jimmy Graham at Carolina?
Yeah, this is the real test, right? It sounds like Davante Adams is healthy, ready to go this week. But can you trust him, or can you trust Tonyan, not being the number one target in Tampa? Or, do you go with the upside of Jimmy Graham's touchdowns against Carolina? They're going to have to score the way Carolina's scoring. I think they're both gambles. Graham, you're banking on a touchdown because you're probably not going to be thrilled about what you get outside of that. Whereas Tanyan, you're banking on him continuing to get targets, right? He scored 3 touchdowns, so you can't argue with that the last week that he played, but you're still hoping that he can get in, he can get in the end zone. He has probably a better chance of just having more consistent catches. So I'll take the higher upside, I think, of Tanyan than Graham. Both kind of upside plays, but I'll take Tanyan.
Yeah, I'm with you. I trust him and that offense more than I trust Graham and the Bears offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the Bears come out and do nothing, I don't think that's going to be a big surprise to anybody. And I do worry about Adams being back, but I think, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that targets the guys he trusts, and I think there's been some sort of trust established there. I don't know what the trust level is with MVS. It seems to sway here and there. Yeah. So, there's got to be another option that's going to emerge there. So I think he's still fine. I'll roll Tanyan here this week against Tampa.
Yeah, both risky guys. Would you go with like a safer option off the waivers, like Atkins for Houston or Hooper for Cleveland?
Nope. I would easily start either of those over both of those guys.
Not this is the upside with these tight ends. When you're going to the waivers like this or the non-established guys, you're looking for the upside play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next up, we've got a PPR flex question here. A couple receivers, a couple running backs. So we've got Jerick McKinnon against the Rams, James White against the Broncos, T. Higgins against the Colts, or Preston Williams against the Jets.
Oh boy, some interesting options. I'm going to remove Higgins immediately just because I don't trust him overall, and I'm definitely not going to trust him against Indy. I'm also removing McKinnon for all the reasons that I removed McKinnon earlier. He just scares me this week. So we're down to James White against the Broncos and Preston Williams against the Jets. I think White's fine. It looks like Cam might be back. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's a fine play. But I think I would rather have Preston Williams. As you were talking about earlier with Fitzpatrick against the Jets, that could be a higher scoring affair on the Dolphins side of things. And Preston can benefit from that. So I'm going to take that upside shot with Preston Williams here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm taking McKinnon out this week, as we mentioned, someone you kind of want to hold off and wait for. And then, yeah, it's tough with these three. I'm not ruling Higgins out right away. I know he hasn't been super consistent, but the last couple of weeks, he's been over, 5 catches, 60 yards, somewhere in that range. Got a couple touchdowns a few weeks ago. So you hope maybe he's due for a touchdown or two. But yeah, it probably looked to White and Preston in this situation. And if Locke plays and we think, hey, maybe the Broncos are going to be able to compete in this game, White is, a decent option, maybe not upside, but his role changes because there may be some more passing needed to be done, 2-minute offense type thing. Yeah, I mean, that's probably your safe bet is you hope that New England has a 2-minute offense at the end of the half, maybe at the end of the game. But Preston's probably got the most upside, with a good offense that you hope he can get in the end zone early. I'd probably lean Higgins 1 and then Preston after that. But White, I think, is going to come down to how that team looks and what the, what Locke looks like. So what the matchup really looks like there.
Okay, fair enough. Just toss out a couple other guys here, Will. Would Russell Gage or Philip Lindsay factor into this equation at all for you?
Yeah, Lindsay's interesting, especially with I believe it was a DUI that Melvin Gordon just got today. If for some reason he doesn't play, I think Lindsay is, coming off injury, obviously, but he seems like he might be, a must play just because, maybe he doesn't go off like you would imagine in a better matchup. New England's defense is still pretty good. He seems to be he would be the guy there. So he should, be touting 15 plus carries, 6, 7 targets even. So I like Phil Lindsay if he is without Melvin and kind of the same thing for Gage. He's kind of Julio dependent. He's almost like your handcuff of a running back, but for Julio, if Julio misses again and Gage is the number 2, option there, I wouldn't mind it. But I'm probably leaning on Higgins and Preston over Russell Gage. Lindsey, I think, is the only guy I would vault to the top of this list if for some reason Melvin does miss the game.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not starting Gage over anyone here not named McKinnon. Not after the couple weeks he's been putting up. Lindsey's definitely interesting. You got to play that by ear. Even if he's a starter, I still might play Preston over him, given the upside of that matchup. And Lindsey's tough matchup against New England and, coming off the injury, it's all kind of worrisome. So I think I would stick with Preston Williams there, but I wouldn't hate it if you wanted to go Lindsey.
Yeah. So next up, looks like we got a quarterback, Tannehill against the Texans, Minshew against the Lions.
Oh, boy. This is an interesting one. I think I want to go with Tannehill in most situations, but if I need to shoot for the moon with upside, I'll go Minshew. It kind of feels similar to like the Stafford Fitzpatrick conversation or like the Big Ben Cousins one, where like Tannehill's going to be pretty steady. He's got decent upside himself. But Minshew's could just end up being in a shootout. And that's always a good thing to have. But, his floor is pretty low. I'll stick with Tannehill here. I think he should be fine. How about you?
Yeah, Tannehill's the safer option, although I'm waiting for the week that he bombs because it's a Derrick Henry week and Derrick Henry just gets going. He's looked good, but he hasn't had that game where he takes over and gets 30 carries, and Tannehill only has to throw the ball 15 times. So I could see that in this matchup with the Texans. If their offense can kind of hold the Texans' offense down a bit. Texans' defense hasn't been great this year. So there's definitely a chance that the ceiling's a little lower for Tannehill. I think depending on what you need, Minshew seems like more of the play that you have with if you need some upside. Tannehill's a little safer. But if I'm going in a vacuum, not knowing what your team looks like, I think I'm going to roll with Minshew this week.
Okay, and we got a tough one here at the running back position. Half-point PPR. You're picking 2 here, Will. Joe Mixon at Indy, Miles Sanders versus Baltimore, or Montgomery at Carolina.
Man, Rich is here. Someone's got a nice setup. Not great matchup for really any of them, but I wouldn't mind starting all 3. It's tough because I want to get Montgomery in the lineup, but we've seen pretty much last week that, Mixon and Miles Sanders had tough matchups and were able to get it done. And I know Sanders was on the back of a big play, but he can make those big plays, whereas I think you're a little limited. You're not going to see that with Montgomery. You could see that with Mixon too. I don't think I can sit Sanders and Mixon, so I'm going to go with those 2. I'm not mad at anybody that wants to plug in David Montgomery over them. It's just the upside isn't there for me as much. I think he's still touchdown dependent, touchdown reliant a bit. He's going to get carries, but he just doesn't seem to be super efficient with them. So if you want some safety, you can throw Montgomery in for one of them. I'd probably start Sanders over Mixon, but it's going to be close. Mixon had been used in the passing game, which has been really refreshing. That's what he's needed to be relevant. So if that continues and Sanders, we know, is used in the passing game, I can't turn down both of those options.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'll take Mixon and Sanders. Really nothing to add. Like you, if you want to call your shot with Montgomery, you want him in the lineup because this is a great matchup, and you want to call your shot and say, hey, I don't trust Mixon and Cincinnati against a good Indy defense. I have no problem with that. Sometimes that's what you got to do. But if it was me, I'd be rolling on Mixon and Sanders. Next one here, we got standard scoring. Adrian Peterson at Jacksonville, Damian Harris versus the Broncos, or Gallup versus the Cardinals.
Man, that's tough. I do not want to touch the backfield of New England if I can afford not to. So I'm going to go away from that. I know Sony's still out, right?
Yeah, I think they put him on IR, so he should be out for another 2 weeks.
And Harris has looked good, this last week, but that was without Cam. So there's a chance he looks better. There's a chance that they, move to a different back. It's just a little risky for me. AP, you know what you're getting. Decent floor, low ceiling. I think I lean Gallup here because I think Dallas is going to try to establish the run, but especially against the Cardinals, it's going to be a team that you're going to have to throw the ball to, and limited opportunity, but we can only go with what we got. It seemed that Dalton seemed to favor Gallup slightly. Obviously, I'm sure he'll spread it around over a full game, but it seemed like he was the guy he trusted. He had the big play to him to put them in field goal range to win that game, so he definitely trusts him. So I'm going to go Gallup in a vacuum, but knowing that there's a lot of upside and a lot of very low floor, I probably go AP for the floor. If you want kind of a mix of the two, Harris kind of falls into that category, but I think go Gallup in a vacuum.
Yeah, I like Harris, but I'm going with Gallup too for all the reasons you mentioned. It looks like Dalton might favor him, and things change from the week that you're coming in as a backup to the week that you're starting, but I think he's going to keep targeting his guy. So I would be good rolling Gallup. At the very least, this should be another high-scoring matchup. You got a good offense that's going to beat up on the Cowboys, so they're going to need to throw the ball around. So I'm cool with Gallup this week too.
Yep, and it's the Monday night matchup too.
Yeah, showtime.
So last matchup we have here, PPR A.J. Brown against the Texans, Cooper Kupp against San Fran.
Oh boy, this is an interesting one given that Miami just beat up on San Fran. You would assume Kupp would easily be able to do the same, but I think I'm going to go with A.J. Brown still. He looked good this week. He's got a good matchup against the Texans. Kupp could have a monster game, as we know Kupp does, but there's so many other options on that team. What running back's going to be, how many touchdowns they're going to get, what tight ends are going to be, how many touchdowns they're going to get. And you still got Robert Woods sitting there too. So I will, I'll go with A.J. Brown. How about you?
San Francisco, the defense, I know the line was kind of banged up. Is their secondary still hurt? Is Sherman playing?
I do not believe he is. I think Jason Verrett might be our top corner right now.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
It's tough because I feel like I like the matchup for Kupp too, but I just can't. And I don't know that I can bench A.J. Brown right now. The way he played last night, he looked great. He only played one game other than that, but he had 8 targets before he got hurt. He only had 40 yards in that first game, but he looked great last night, 7 for 82. So a little more upside there. Kupp, you probably have a little higher floor. So Kupp's probably your floor play here. Probably doesn't get in the end zone, but, has a ton of catches because ideally San Francisco is scoring as well. So it's a close game. Whereas I think there's a good chance Tennessee runs away with that one. But even so, A.J. Brown is just so focal in this offense, especially if you have Humphreys and Corey Davis missing. I am going to go A.J. Brown here.
Yeah, just add to that, Will. Sherman had a setback yesterday. He was looking to come back this week, but that ain't going to happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, so with all that in mind, we're going to go ahead and move to the trade portion of the episode here. So we will be starting with Dynasty per the usual. Will, we got a super flex question. Pretty straightforward. Daniel Jones or a mid to late 21 first?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you probably were able to get Daniel Jones around that, 2 years ago now in your rookie draft. So I don't mind the trade. I think it depends on what you need and where you're at, right? If you're rebuilding and you have a quarterback already, you don't necessarily need one, then I wouldn't mind making this move because you should be able to get one of the 3 quarterbacks with your earlier pick, likely if you're rebuilding. But if you have, some, let's say, two solid quarterbacks and then maybe a nice veteran, and you don't need to play Daniel Jones this year and you're not competing. I think there's a scenario where you need him to compete, but even so, he's not playing great. So I wouldn't mind getting out from him for a mid to late first year. You can always move up to get the quarterback you want, but there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft on top of a lot of other talent. So I will take the pick.
I'm on the opposite end. I'm still sticking with Daniel Jones. At the end of the day, he's a quarterback in a super flex, and that commands a lot of value. And he's a young one at that. I mean, I know he's struggling, and that's where this question's coming from. But he's only in his second year. They're going to have growing pains. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sticking with Daniel Jones. If you really hate him, that's fine. I get it. I'd be more happy if this had like a second added to it, or if it was really locked in. That'd be a mid pick. Obviously, you're not going to get that this part of the season, but that's what I'd prefer. So I'm sticking with Daniel Jones.
All right. Next up, we've got another dynasty one here. Chase Claypool in a half point PPR or a first and second here in 2021.
That's easy. I'll take the picks for me. This is a nice cash in on a big game. I don't think maybe he'll be worth it one day, but not as of right now. I'll take the first and second.
Right there with you. I mean, he was likely a mid-second round pick, maybe even a little later. So you're cashing in and getting two super valuable assets that you likely, be able to package a first, second, and a player for an elite player at this point. Maybe a little bit more, but you can really turn Claypool and a little bit more into an elite, established, consistent wide receiver or running back, getting a first and a second back there. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all. Claypool's looked good. He's proved me wrong so far, but I think there's just too many weapons there for him to be worth it this year, and you have those picks to play with, so I'll take those two picks.
Okay, we're entering the realm of redraft. We actually got two Davante Adams trades here back to back. Well, half point PPR, 10 teams, Davante Adams or Will Fuller and James Robinson.
Yeah, it's tough. I think in this one, and I think it's, I'm still doubting James Robinson, I guess, a bit. Fuller doesn't do much for me. He's up and down. I just am not thrilled with that offense and really don't want any parts of it. I have David Johnson in one league that I have no other running back, so I need to have that. But other than that, I'm not looking at this offense. So I don't know that Fuller is enough of a bump and the kind of the natural running back bump to do James Robinson to Davante Adams. So I'll take Adams here, especially in a 10-team league. Give me the more elite player.
Yep, that's my thought process as well. If it was another wide receiver other than Fuller, I'd be considering it, but with Fuller in there, I will pass. Plus, you want your studs in a smaller league like a 10-team, and that's going to be Davante Adams. So I'll stick with Adams here.
Yeah, other side, another half point seems probably a 12-teamer. Davante Adams for Chris Carson and Jarvis Landry.
This one is pretty much the same. I'm good with Carson. I wouldn't mind adding him, but I'd want something other than Landry. I think I'd rather have Landry over Fuller, but still, it's not enough to make me want to move on from Davante Adams.
Yeah, seems like the buy low window here on Adams. You're really trying to get trying to get in, or while he's been hurt and hasn't been playing. This one I think does it more for me. I'm maybe just more biased on Carson and Landry. Ahead of Fuller. Not thrilled about either of them, but I like Carson in that offense. But yeah, I'd want something different than Landry likely for Adams. So I'd probably lean to stay Adams here. But if you can, turn that into Carson and something else, it's not a bad trade though.
Okay, and our last question here, no scoring format specified. We have Stefon Diggs and Hunter Henry for Joe Mixon and Thielen. They did leave a note saying that the player getting Hunter Henry has Ertz, so it looks like they're trying to fill a hole at the tight end position, and they're giving up on Ertz here.
Yeah, and it stinks because once you trade for Henry, you're probably not going to get much for Ertz. Maybe you can go out and get, a decent running back. But I like Hunter Henry. I don't like him enough, I think, for this trade. Diggs has played great, but Thielen I don't think is that much of a drop-off to be picking up a guy like Mixon who had one big game recently but hasn't looked great this year, so you're probably still kind of selling low. I would rather hang on to Mixon Thielen. I don't know what the waiver wire looks like. There may not be much out there. But the tight ends are up and down all the time. I'd rather try to move something else for a tight end than Mixon and Thielen.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just seems like an overpay. And I understand trying to solve the problem, but I think you're giving up too much to solve that problem.
Yeah.
I'd rather
making another problem for it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather like trade, if I had a good quarterback, trade my quarterback away to a team that doesn't have a good quarterback and a piece to get a tight end or something and just stream the rest of the year or something like that. Mixing and Thielen just too much for me. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Will, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, good luck everybody this week. No Thursday night football, so no trying to put your Thursday night guys in the starting position and out of the flex here. So just good luck. Hopefully everyone's team remains healthy. No major injuries this week. And just remember to trust your board.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good luck this week. We will see you next Tuesday for the waiver show. Remember, as Will said, trust your board.